stand, or do you want to? I'll just use that mic stand. Just take this.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Boy, The few, the proud, the brave. Here we are. My name is Ruth Robarge. I'll be your moderator this morning. Happy to be here. Happy to find my gloves and scarves and heavy coat. I hope we all did the same. Happy and Merry Christmas. And as we think about putting Christmas stuff away and putting the Hanukkah stuff away and getting ready to celebrate Kwanzaa, and of course then there's Festivus for the rest of us, welcome, welcome. I would encourage people to move to the front. Couple of reasons. First of all, then we're more of a group, and second of all, it's warmer in the front. So, come on, move up. While we're doing that, if you are, we want to make sure that we welcome our visitors and friends that may be visiting. So if you are one of those people, and if you're moving and doing this at the same time, you raise your arm and wave at me. Big wave. Are you new? No, you just like waving. How about in the back? Anyone? Hi, yes. Good, thank you. Welcome. Welcome. So, the other thing you might want to do is to sit make sure that you're sitting next to somebody who radiates heat, because there are people who do. Yes, over here.
We're visiting from Columbus, Indiana, from the UCCI there.
And your name?
Adam Reuter. I'm bringing my mom.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Any other visitors that either brought themselves, or if you're sitting next to a visitor that you'd like to introduce? We're good? It's a small group this morning, so that's understandable. There is a visitors table out back in the lobby, so if you want to stop there and enjoy a cup of coffee after service with us, we'd be happy to see you there. Let's see, was there anything else I was going to say? Other than it's very good to see you all this morning after a wonderful time with family, blood family, that is both stressful and joyous in weird combinations. It's nice to be here with people that are just joyous. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Again, good morning. And welcome on this threshold day of a new year arriving as the final hours of an old year pass into the keeping of history. The moments go on in their measured way. Nothing changes but the name we give to time. And yet we pause to mark the turning of the wheel, to make what we can of a new beginning, and rededicate ourselves to those ideals that we would keep as a constant of our lives, so that we might sustain them with ever greater courage and joy in the days to come. There is a quiet courage in the choice to let go of the past, in the choice to be present in this new day, to live for this hour, this moment, to believe in its possibilities, to release the regrets, to stop the spinning stories of what was and is no longer, to accept this gift, to believe that we are worthy still of happiness, of ease, of delight and hope, to believe that we have all we need to heal already, and to receive this wholeness with eager hearts and open hands, saying only, thank you. Come, let us practice this surrender together, gathering up all the brave boldness we know can be found in our bones and blood if we will breathe together, knowing ourselves a part of this one life filled with mystery and creativity and power, changing us, growing us, and calling us into partnership with all that is and is yet to be. As the cold settles in upon us, we kindle this flame. May it warm our spirits and call us into community, reminding us of our shared purpose and our common destiny. In its light, let us lift our hearts to gratitude, to new possibilities, to the better selves that we might yet be, and the better world that we might yet build together.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Evan, and I light this chalice for acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations.
Thank you. Now let's rise as we're willing and able and join our voices in song.
Chalice, warm us with love and kindness. Shine in the mind, finding freedom and hope. Illuminate our inward paths, enlighten every soul, and hallow our hands as we make the broken whole. Chalice, beacon of truth and wisdom, guide us to grow in the glow of your light, as together we pledge ourselves to serve the greater good. Oh, flaming chalice, burn clean and bright.
And will you remain standing as we affirm once again the words of our community covenant? Together we affirm, goodwill is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Now you can be seated. The season of Yuletide has always been a celebration of light, both ancient and modern. One of the most recent reflections of this celebration is Kwanzaa, a holiday created in the 1960s, especially for Black people in the United States. It is intended to honor their African heritage, to lift up the values which are of particular importance to the Black community. The word Kwanzaa comes from a Swahili expression for the first fruits of the harvest, and this holiday borrows elements from many traditions, including feasting, gift-giving, and storytelling. It is observed for 7 days, from December 26th to January 1st, and it includes creating a special area in the home for the woven mat, the fruits, the ears of corn, the unity cup, and the 7 candles. One of these candles is lighted each day, representing each of the 7 principles celebrated at Kwanzaa. Part of the feast that is shared with family and friends at Kwanzaa is called the libation to the ancestors. This is an opportunity to recall and to honor the memory of our parents, grandparents, and forebears, as well as those prophets and teachers who have contributed to our understanding of what it means to be human. For Mother Earth, the garden and cradle of human life. For Father Time, the unfolding history of human endeavor. For the long line of men and women who struggled so that we might see this day. For our ancestors who gave us their many heritages. For the elders here from whom we have so much to learn. For our young people who are the symbol of tomorrow. For the hopes and values that guide us in all we do. For all the forces that create and uphold life. For the strength to continue in our struggle until people everywhere are free. Another part of the Kwanzaa tradition is the lighting of the 7 candles that stand for the 7 principles celebrated by this holiday. I invite you to join me in the responses on the screen as we light the Mishuma Saba, the 7 lights. The first and central candle of Kwanzaa stands for unity, for there can be no community without unity.
Therefore, as we rejoice in the light, let us be loyal and loving to one another always.
The second candle of Kwanzaa represents freedom, for no community can survive unless people are free.
Therefore, as we rejoice in the light, let us treasure freedom for ourselves and all people.
The third candle of Kwanzaa means responsibility, for no community can prosper unless people work together.
Therefore, as we rejoice in the light, let us live and work in harmony with all the citizens of the earth.
The fourth candle of Kwanzaa stands for economic resources, for no community can endure without satisfying basic human needs.
Therefore, as we rejoice in the light, let us seek the prosperity that leaves no one poor.
The fifth candle of Kwanzaa represents purpose, for no community can function without shared aspirations.
Therefore, as we rejoice in the light, let us work together toward a common dream.
The sixth candle of Kwanzaa means creativity, for no community can grow unless it can find new ways to solve problems and to make beauty.
Therefore, as we rejoice in the light, let us share the gifts of our creativity.
The seventh and last candle of Kwanzaa symbolizes faith, for no community can live without hope for the future.
Therefore, as we rejoice in the light, let us believe that together we can become the beloved community that is meant to be.
Now, we have no program this morning for our young people, but I invite us to join together in blessing them, even though they're going to remain with us with our traditional song.
Go now in peace, may love guide all your ways. Beauty be the blessing of your nights and days. Truth on your lips and kindness in your deeds. Faith to follow where the human spirit leads.
Good morning. I'll try to get my voice out to you. As I thought about asking you to give some of your talents and money today, I first wanted to really thank all of you for giving so many ways. As I schedule through the year, I see all the fundraising, the meetings you attend endlessly, the fun that you have, and the many social causes that we support in so many ways. And as I look at our budget, I think we're doing very well with your strong support. And I thank you for that. And now I ask you to give generously, and we will collect the morning offering.
As you remain seated, please join me in the words of dedication for our offering. We dedicate our offerings and our actions to the mission at the heart of our congregation, to build a respectful, caring community, to inspire personal and spiritual growth, and to create a just and compassionate society. Thank you.
From A Gentleman's Guide to Rape Culture by Zarin Burnett III. If you're a man, you are part of rape culture. I know that sounds rough. You're not a rapist necessarily, but you do perpetuate the attitudes and behaviors commonly referred to as rape culture. You may be thinking, hold up, Zarin, you don't know me. I'll be damned, I'm going to let you say I'm some sort of fan of rape. That's not me, man. Now, I know how you feel. That was pretty much exactly my response when someone told me I was a part of rape culture. It sounds horrible. But just imagine moving through the world always afraid you could be raped. That's even worse. Rape culture sucks for everyone involved. But don't get hung up on the terminology. Don't concentrate on the words that offend you and ignore what they're pointing to. The words rape culture aren't the problem. The reality they describe is the problem.
Rape isn't exclusively committed by men. Women aren't the only victims. Men rape men. Women rape men. But what makes rape a men's problem, our problem, is the fact that men commit 99% of reported rapes. How are you a part of rape culture? Well, I hate to say it, but it's because you're a man. I don't know about you, but I don't spend much of my life feeling vulnerable. I've come to learn that women spend most of their social lives with ever-present, unavoidable feelings of vulnerability. Stop and think about that. Imagine always feeling like you could be at risk, like you were living with glass skin. A woman must consider where she is going, what time of day it is, what time she will arrive at her destination, and what time she'll leave her destination, what day of the week it is, if she'll be alone at any point. The considerations go on and on because they are far more numerous than you or I can imagine. You may think that it's unfair that we have to counteract and adjust ourselves for the ill behavior of other men. You know what? You're right. It's unfair. Is that the fault of women? Or is it the fault of the men who act abysmally and make the rest of us look bad? If issues of fairness bother you, get mad at the women. Get mad at the men. Glasses. Who make you and your actions appear questionable. Rape prevention is not just about women teaching women how not to get raped. It's about men not committing rape. The completely reasonable and understandable fear of men is your responsibility. You didn't create it, but you also didn't build the freeways either. Some of the things you inherit from society are cool, and some of them are rape culture.
When a woman first told me I was part of rape culture, I wanted to disagree for obvious reasons. Like many of you, I wanted to say, whoa, that ain't me. Instead, I listened. Later, I approached a writer I respect. I asked her to write an article with me wherein she'd explain rape culture to me and to male readers. She stopped returning my emails. At first, I was annoyed. Then, as it became clear she wasn't going to respond at all, I actually got mad. As I let that storm pass and thought about it, I took a walk. That seems to jangle my best thoughts loose. Blocks from my house in front of a car wash, it dawned on me. If rape culture is so important to me, I needed to find out for myself what it is. No woman owes me her time just because I want to know about something she inherently understands. No woman should feel she has to explain rape culture to me just because I want to know what it is. No woman owes me that, or anything else. I saw how my desire for a woman to satisfy me ran deep. Even my curiosity, a trait that always made me proud, was marred with the same sort of male-centric presumption that fuels rape culture. I expected to be satisfied. That attitude is the problem. I started reading and kept reading until I understood rape culture and my part in it. Rape culture is not just about sex. It's the product of a generalized attitude of male supremacy. Sexual violence is one expression of that attitude. Again, don't let the terminology spook you. Don't get hung up on the term male supremacy. The term isn't the problem. The problem is that rape culture hurts everyone involved. Antiquated, patriarchal notions of society make it difficult even for men to come forward as rape victims. Men shouldn't feel threatened or attacked when women point out rape culture. They're telling us about our common enemy. We ought to listen.
Now you know what it is. What can you do about rape culture?
Avoid using language that objectifies or degrades women.
Speak out if you hear someone else making an offensive joke or trivializing rape.
If a friend says she's been raped, take her seriously. Be supportive.
Think critically about the media's messages about women, men, relationships, and violence.
Be respectful of others' physical space, even in casual situations.
Always communicate with sexual partners and do not assume consent.
Define your own manhood or womanhood. Don't let stereotypes shape your actions.
What else can you do about rape culture when you experience it in real life?
For one thing, men can correct men. If you hear a guy say some jacked up slurs in front of you and there's no one from that particular community around to be offended, you can still say something. This is also true when you hear misogynistic language. Speak up. Tell your friend or co-worker that rape jokes are bull and you won't tolerate them. No one needs you telling them what you think about every little thing they say and whether it meets your criteria for social awareness. But when some dude says some foul dirt, and you know it, we all hear those jokes, you can let the dude know his rape joke or his she's a whore analogy didn't play.
Also, men can make other men shut up. Let's say you're in a group of men and one of your friends starts hollering at a girl. Tell them to knock it the bleep off. Those idiots make us all look like complete tools. You get that, right? We need to cut that crap out. When a guy catcalls a woman and you don't say anything, he just treated her like a cheaply degraded sex object for his satisfaction, and he turned you into the punk that's willing to allow him to mistreat a woman in your presence while you say nothing.
Finally, it's our job to have standards for ourselves and thus for all men. You may think, Zarin, man, lighten up. Catcalling's not that big a deal. Aren't we making a mountain out of a molehill? Some women like it. You may be right. Maybe some women do like it. That doesn't matter. I like to speed. My cousin likes to smoke pot. Neither of us gets to do what we like. That's just how it goes sometimes when you're a member of a society. Don't limit yourself to being a man. Be a mensch. Be a human being.
And when something like #YesAllWomen occurs in our cultural conversation, and women the world over are out there sharing their experiences, their trauma, their stories, and their personal views, as men, we don't need to enter that conversation. In that moment, all we need to do is listen and reflect and let their words change our perspective. Our job is to ask ourselves how we can do better.
My short skirt. From the Vagina Monologues by Eve Ensler. It is not an invitation, a provocation, an indication that I want it or give it or that I hook. My short skirt is not begging for it. It does not want you to rip it off me or pull it down. My short skirt is not a legal reason for raping me. Although it has been before, it will not hold up in the new court. My short skirt, believe it or not, has nothing to do with you. My short skirt is about discovering the power of my lower calves, about cool autumn traveling up my inner thighs, about allowing everything I see or pass or feel to live inside. My short skirt is not proof that I am stupid or undecided or a malleable little girl. My short skirt is my defiance. I will not let you make me afraid. My short skirt is not showing off. This is who I am before you made me cover it or tone it down. Get used to it. My short skirt is happiness. I can feel myself on the ground. I am here. I am hot. My short skirt is a liberation flag in the woman's army. I declare these streets, any streets, my vagina's country. My short skirt is turquoise water with swimming colored fish, a summer festival in the starry dark, a bird calling, a train arriving in a foreign town. My short skirt is a wild spin, a full breath, a tango dip. My short skirt is initiation, appreciation, excitation. But mainly, my short skirt and everything underneath it is mine. Is mine. Is mine.
As many, but perhaps not all of you may know, this is our Golden Oldie Sunday, and this is the sermon which was chosen by ballot by the congregation as the one they wanted to hear again. Comes from a year ago fall. And it wasn't the sermon I had announced for that date, just before the election last year. Once in a while, history intervenes in our plans, no matter how carefully we lay them out. As one very smart and powerful lady had said earlier that week, I have to tell you, I can't stop thinking about this. It has shaken me to my core in a way I could not have predicted. So while I'd love nothing more than to pretend like this isn't happening and to come out here and do my normal speech, it would be dishonest and disingenuous for me to just move on to the next thing like this was all just a bad dream. This is not something we can ignore. It's not something that we can just sweep under the rug as just another disturbing footnote in a sad election season. That's right, Michelle. Preach it, First Lady, as someone in the crowd called out that Thursday. And it would be dishonest and disingenuous for me as a spiritual leader to go ahead with the service we had planned for that Sunday morning and try to pretend that the women and the men of this community were not sitting here with full and aching hearts, remembering all the things that so many of us have to remember. Hashtag yes, all women. Things that have been dredged out of the recesses of our life stories, leaving some of us shaken and angry and disgusted and ashamed and afraid and sad, just like they did when they happened, whether that was decades ago or just last month or last week. So let's talk. And I will assume that none of us has been living under a rock or a cone of silence for the past week, and try to keep it together enough to protect our tax-exempt status by not letting this become a partisan political rant on the threshold of our November presidential election, which had not at that point happened. In any case, you don't need my instructions to decide who to vote for. And besides, we have much deeper and more urgent matters than that to discuss at the moment. What we have, in fact, is a possible cultural watershed, a tipping point when our society might shift its operating consensus about how we understand who we are together in a way that leaves us a little bit changed in our reckoning of the common good. What we have is a conversation out in the open, thanks to comments made by and accusations leveled at one of our candidates. A conversation about the minor acts of sexual assault that women are routinely subjected to and expected to deal with as part of our daily lives in this culture. Hear me now, this is important. When I say minor acts of sexual assault, I do not mean that these experiences are trivial. They are not trivial. They shape our way of being in the world and our shared understanding of what it means to be a woman. And yet, the violent sexual crime of actual rape, horrible and traumatizing and far too frequent as it is not what I mean. I'm talking about the low-level background noise of unwanted touches, unsolicited words, gestures, whistles, and leers that we have learned to ignore, to get over, and try not to let bother us in order to function as competent adults in our shared social context. I mean the supposed jokes and suggestive instructions and smirking double entendres and purportedly accidental bumps and grabby hugs by which some men express dominance and gratify their impulses toward women that we have to deal with and put up with in order to keep the wheels of civil interaction turning. The encounters that are not frightening enough or humiliating enough to be worth making a scene over. And so we laugh it off or move away, change the subject, bring another person into the conversation, create a distraction, anything but call it out or try to name it in the moment. Anything but claim our discomfort and its true source. For a long time now, for most of my lifetime, it seems to me that women have negotiated ourselves into a Faustian bargain that in return for the acknowledgement that rape might be considered a crime for which the perpetrator rather than the victim was held responsible, we would agree not to complain about the other stuff. That if men could be expected to control their scariest potential for violence, they could get away with the lightweight violations, the ones they could claim meant no harm. And we would not complain, at least not loudly, not publicly. And I wonder if that bargain is now, thanks to recent events, on the table for renegotiation. Let me also be clear that in claiming that all women have a problem, I do not intend to suggest that all men are a problem. That is very certainly not the case. Donald Trump has sought to minimize the offensiveness of his recorded description of how he imposes himself on women he finds desirable by claiming that it constituted locker room banter. Now, many men, many of whom themselves found his comments deplorable, including a number of professional athletes, have pushed back against this notion, asserting that this kind of talk is not something they observe in their experience of locker rooms. And I have read and heard women say that such statements as these somehow discount the reality of our experience, which is that these things do happen to us over and over again, and we are not making it up. So I want us to exercise a little of our much proclaimed reason here in this highly emotional conversation and recognize the important truth that these two claims are not mutually exclusive. I cannot speak to the facts about how men talk to each other in a locker room environment for obvious reasons, but I am willing to entertain the possibility that while crude language and lewd topics may be common, boasting about the practice of sexual assault is actually not, and perhaps would not even be welcomed if it were to be offered. I would be glad to think that this is in fact the case, and I am glad that there are men who believe it is important to assert that it is so. However, nothing about that assertion disputes the claim being made by women, in which I concur, that the behavior Trump describes happens and is tolerated routinely in the world of our experience. And here is the essential thing. That experience has a cost. That strategic evasion, that non-confrontation, that never mind, just don't think about it, and he's a jerk, just pay him no attention, all of that eats away a little bit at our confidence, at our light in the world, at our sense of inherent worth and dignity, especially the dignity part. And I submit that every woman in this room knows that icky pit of the stomach feeling that comes when somebody does what they do with words or touches to claim a piece of you and get off one way or another at your expense, and you have no choice about it. That feeling takes away joy and safety and freedom. It changes the complexion of the day, throws a shadow of disgust and shame and dread over whatever part of your own business you were minding before it happened. And not only that, the memory of it brings back that same set of sensations, swirling back, stealing our joy and safety and dignity all over again, because we swallowed it in the first place. And that, folks, is the source of the firestorm initiated by a few minutes of 11-year-old audio tape. Donald Trump managed to re-traumatize all American women together at the same time and make us all remember the ickiest moments of our lives and turn to each other and to the nation and say, really? Do we really think that this is okay? Are we really putting up with this? And are we really willing to teach our daughters to put up with it too? Because if not them, why us? And if it is outrageous for other women to be subjected to exploitive, dehumanizing, assaultive behavior, why should I feel ashamed and paralyzed when it happens to me? Now, let me suggest that if you don't know what the big deal is, if you're not familiar with the kinds of experiences I'm talking about, if you don't believe it's all that common, you should check out the stories at #YesAllWomen. And nowadays we have #MeToo. I could tell you my own stories and the stories that other women have shared with me, but that would just subject everyone here to yet another helping of ickiness, another round of revulsion and powerlessness, so I'm not going to do that. What I am going to do is urge all of us to challenge the conventions of silence and dismissal, and I mean all of us, men and women alike, including the trans and the bi folks who likely know more what I'm talking about even more intensely. And in this sometimes difficult process, I offer you the shield of faith in case it might be useful. It does help our teenagers sometimes when we give them the option of saying to their peers, for instance, I can't be part of picking on a person because they're gay, it's against my religion. Just as their Jewish friends might respond if offered a ham sandwich. Well, you can use it too. I can't let you touch me like that. It's against my religion, because it is. You will be telling the simple truth. I can't listen to these jokes. It's against my religion. Or try, I can't watch you treat a woman that way. It's against my religion. There can be no more accurate witness to what Unitarian Universalism is. It might even help outsiders to answer for themselves the invariable question, what do you believe? Women, what we need to wrap our minds around is that low-level sexual predators count on that moment of confusion and paralysis after the joke or the grope, when we run through the litany of questions in our heads. Did that really just happen? Did he mean what that sounded like? Did I do something to invite this? Is it worth making a scene about? Will I end up looking hysterical and ridiculous? How vulnerable am I here? By which time the crowd has shifted, the conversation has moved on, the immediate moment has passed, and you would have to make an even bigger deal out of it if you tried to call it out. We need to trust icky and announce icky, which is a statement about ourselves and not necessarily an accusation. Wow, that didn't feel good. Or, you know, I'm not okay with that question. Or that comment is intrusive, or uncalled for, or gross, depending on the context. The only way the social consensus about what is appropriate is going to change is if we begin to define by shared observation the behavior that is no longer tolerated. Personally, I like to channel the Dowager Duchess of Grantham in such moments, because who would cross Dame Maggie Smith? And the frosty phrase, let's change the subject, shall we? Should alert everyone present that a newly shifted line of what is acceptable may have been crossed. And men, we need you to have our backs on this in a specific kind of way. We don't need Sir Galahad riding to our rescue. So the key is to check it out. When you hear a comment or see a touch that seems borderline to you, ask the woman in question how she's doing. Hey, was that crack all right with you? Do you have enough breathing space over there? Own your questions and your feelings. These comments are bothering me. I wonder how it feels to Debbie. I know it can appear tricky, but you don't protect someone's dignity by assuming what they feel or by taking on their fight before you are invited to. At the same time, as Zarin Burnett observes, it is always legitimate to challenge the behavior of other men on your own behalf. Hey, you are making me look like an idiot, back off, or chill out. Just imagine what a different national conversation we might be having if Billy Bush had responded to Trump's confidences by saying, "That is some creepy bullshit, Donald. Why should women have to let you do that?" The other thing you can do is to believe us and support us when we tell you about incidents that leave us feeling violated and demeaned. First of all, don't speculate about what you would feel in that situation. The high likelihood is that you have never been, and by definition could not be, in that situation. And don't start out by identifying with the perpetrator. Oh, he probably didn't mean anything by it. Does not constitute a helpful response. Also, take seriously the meme I saw on Facebook recently. If you don't personally know any women who have been sexually assaulted, what that means is that the women you know don't trust you. Should you find yourself casting about for a meaningful reply, when a woman does trust you enough to tell you the truth about her experience, try this. "I'm so sorry this happened to you. Can I be helpful?" And so as long as I'm in the business of giving out preachy advice, here's the most important piece. We all need to agree, men and women both, everyone, that it is never a woman's fault when a man grants himself the right to touch her, to comment on her body, to demand her sexual attention, or to unilaterally sexualize their interaction with his conversation or gestures. It's creepy. It's icky. It's assault, and it's not okay. Not anymore. We're done. It may be that this means that some well-meaning men are going to have to reconsider a few of their innocent conversational habits or social gambits, some of which may not have been as innocent as they were pleased to believe. So be it. It's not the fault of women. It never has been, and we are not overreacting. For that, perhaps, we actually owe Mr. Trump and his vulgar demonstration of male entitlement a certain gratitude. On the other hand, as Timothy Egan observes in a recent New York Times editorial, the core lessons that bind a civilized society are in play in the last days of this election. Civility, always a tenuous thing, cannot be quickly restored in a society that has learned to hate in public at full throttle. Civility, always a tenuous thing. This is the destructive legacy of a campaign that has exemplified exclusion, derision, and the defense of privilege as core strategies. We are going to have work to do picking up the pieces. Those of us who value respect, compassion, justice, and human dignity in the public sphere. We are going to have to make an effort to reconstruct a cultural consensus of mutual trust and mutual accountability, one that is going to have to be built on a more level playing field that does not countenance the dehumanizing and abuse of women in the service of men's sexual dominance. That's not the whole structure, just one plank in it. But I'm hopeful that if we pay attention to experiences highlighted during this past week, it's an essential plank that we cannot now discard. It's an ongoing struggle, of course. It has been all my life. 30 years ago now, Unitarian Universalist women began demanding a liturgy and a hymnody that would uphold and honor our gender identity and our bodies as direct images of the holy. It wasn't that we wanted to discard all the poetry of God as Father, but we knew that we would never enter into equal leadership or power with men until feminine qualities were celebrated as divine, and female language was also applied in reference to God. And so the creative challenge was set forth, and we started to imagine what it would mean to sing to and about God as a reflection of women. I wrote Lady of the Season's Laughter as an anthem for that movement, a claim that in a constantly changing world, the source of compassion might be the one thing that we could always trust. 3 decades later, even in the wake of this toxic presidential campaign, I still believe that our hope for human good rests in the steady mercy of our hearts for one another, that our labors for justice and dignity will come safe to the birth of a better world, and that together, women and men and everybody, it is we who will write history's fairer page. Will you stand and sing with me?
Lady of the season's laughter, in the summer's warmth being here, when the winter follows after, teach our spirits not to fear. Hold us in your steady mercy, Lady of the turning year. Sister of the evening starlight, in the falling shadows stay, here among us till the far light of tomorrow's dawning ray. Hold us in your steady mercy, Lady of the turning day. Mother of the generations, in whose love all life is worth, everlasting celebrations bring our labor safe to birth. Hold us in your steady minds and hearts to end oppression, writing history's fairer page. Hold us in your steady mercy, Lady of the turning age.
Once again, we extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, or the warmth of community, or the fires of commitment. For all these we carry in our minds and hearts until we are together again. Now, therefore, since the struggle deepens, since evil abides and good does not yet prosper, let us gather what strength we have, what confidence, what determination, that our small victories may end in triumph, and the world awaited become a world attained. Go in courage and peace.
Ours a religion which like sunshine goes everywhere, its temple all space, its shrine the good heart, its creed all truth, its ritual works